Marriage is love in action. In marriage, we practice the risky work of softening, of bending towards another, of choosing every day to love each other. We build strong foundations of patience, understanding, and kindness for one another. Marriage is the act of co-creation, where we make the courageous and continual promise to move alongside, move together, out into the world as a living example of God's love.
Love is about what we do. It involves action and is a choice we make for the sake of another person that will always cost us something. But it's only meaningful if the other person feels the benefit.
You may have discovered that as a couple, you feel loved in very different ways, and that is certainly true for us.
For me, it's when we spend time together, when I have Nicky's full attention, that I feel most loved by him.
But for me, it's through words. It's when Scilla pays me compliments and doesn't say too many critical things all in one go that I feel most loved. One of my hobbies is carpentry. I enjoy making things out of old pieces of wood. And if I've made something for Scilla, I like her to say something complimentary about it every day for at least 2 weeks. After that, every other day is fine. The other main way I feel loved is through the things that Scilla does for me, through her kind actions. And I know that if Scilla had kept all of her affirming words and her helpful actions for our children and none for me, I wouldn't feel there was much love in our marriage.
So for me, as well as time together, physical affection, touch, is a very important way for me to know Nicky's love. So if Nicky were to give all his time and touch to his laptop and phone, but not to me, I wouldn't feel very loved.
Even after many years, it's easy to forget how different we are in what makes us each feel loved. And despite our best efforts, we can end up feeling frustrated and irritated through trying to show love in our own way rather than each other's. Not long ago, we inherited several boxes of books that had belonged to Scilla's late father. We already had far too many books in our house and had nowhere to put them. And I thought Scilla was very unlikely even to open these books, let alone read them. So I felt rather resentful about having them at all. However, I didn't say anything about my feelings to Scilla, as I recognised they held emotional value for her. So one Saturday, we decided to go to IKEA and buy a bookshelf system for them, which I would put up while Scilla sorted through the books in another room. Of course, it took me considerably longer to put the shelves together than I'd anticipated. But finally, at about 10 p.m, I finished and was feeling rather pleased with my handiwork when Scilla came in and failed to say anything encouraging at all about the shelves.
Well, we hadn't talked about it, but I was very much hoping that Nicky would have finished in time for us to have dinner together. So I was feeling rather resentful, not because I didn't appreciate his hard work, but because we hadn't spent any of the afternoon or evening together at all. And as I said, spending time together is so important for me to feel loved.
And I didn't feel great because words are so important for me to feel loved. And Scilla had failed to affirm my effort with the shelves. And in addition, in my head, I was putting up the shelves for Scilla. But as you've heard, actions are much more important for me to feel loved than for her.
So depending on what makes you feel loved at this moment, you'll either be feeling more sympathy with me or with Nicky, and you may not get the other perspective at all.
What makes you feel most loved? Time, man. Just being with one another.
She doesn't have to do anything, just come and sit with me and spend time, then I really feel loved.
I like gifts. I speak in the language of presence.
For me, like physical touch and kind words are very important.
Just really whenever he helps me with some of the things around the house.
It's like when I come home, the kitchen is clean.
And she's like this with me on my body. That's the best moment of my life.
I just want to know that you're thinking about me. Yes, exactly. Because I'm always thinking about me, so I need to know you're thinking about me too.
It doesn't have to be like, giving gifts to the other person or like complimenting them.
I want gifts.
It's just spending quality time with the other person, honestly, in my opinion. What do you think?
I want gifts.
You want gifts?
Yeah.
As you've heard, different people feel loved in different ways. A marriage that's full of love is where we're seeking to meet our husband or wife's needs in the particular way that makes them feel loved.
In his brilliant book, The 5 Love Languages, author and counsellor Gary Chapman describes 5 separate ways through which people experience love.
The 5 love languages grew out of my counseling with couples. They would sit in my office and one of them would say, "I just feel like he doesn't love me or she doesn't love me." And the other would say, "I don't understand that. I do this and this and this. Why would you not feel loved?" And I heard similar stories over and over again. And I knew there had to be a pattern to what I was hearing, but I had no idea what it was. So eventually I took time to sit down and read several years of notes that I made when I was counseling people and asked myself the question, what did they want? What were they complaining about? And their answers fell into 5 categories. And I later called them the 5 love languages. And I started using that concept in my counseling, that if you want her to feel love, you've got to express love in her love language. If you want him to feel love, you've got to express love in his love language. And I would help couples discover their primary love language, challenge them to go home and try speaking it, and sometimes they would come back in 3 weeks and say, "Gary, this is changing everything. The whole climate's different now." The love languages are words of affirmation, gifts or presents, quality time, kind actions, and physical touch. You discover which of those is most important to your spouse and you start speaking it, chances are you'll begin to see a difference. So I think when you feel loved in the relationship, it's easier to process all the rest of life, because the need for love, the emotional need for love, is the deepest emotional need we have as humans. And if you're married, no relationship is more significant than the relationship with your spouse.
Discovering how our partner feels loved is incredibly empowering in a marriage. It can improve even the best marriage and can turn things around for a marriage that is struggling.
However, when we first try using our partner's love language, if it's different to our own or not something we observed growing up, it can feel very unnatural. And we may think that love should always be natural and spontaneous. But actually, loving intentionally can take real work, just like learning a foreign language. Early in our marriage, we lived in Japan for 3 years, and I tried really hard to learn Japanese. At first, it felt very unnatural, as Japanese includes sounds that don't exist in English, and it was difficult to get my mouth in the right shape. But as I practiced, it began to feel more natural, and Japanese people started to respond, which was hugely rewarding.
And it can be the same with learning our partner's love language. It may feel difficult or even unnatural at first and will require effort and practice. But the effect of learning what makes our partner feel loved far outweighs the hard work involved.
I think I'm showing her love by holding her hand, and but to learn that she wanted specific things that really made her feel loved, like, I don't know, coffee in the morning.
We have these new electric toothbrushes, and we have only one charging station. So out of the blue, he will change mine, so it will be charged. Every time that I notice that he does that, kind of like, where's my heart, you know? It's little details that he was thinking of.
My love language is service. So if she cleans the house, I'm doing backflips. I feel like I'm loved to the max, and things like that. Or if she makes a plate, if there's food and she's like, here's a plate, here's a drink or something. Oh my gosh, my insides are like flying all over the place, and I feel truly loved.
Kate's love languages, I think, are touch and presence. I'd say are 2 of your... Do you agree?
I'd say quality time.
Quality time, okay. So 3 love languages. 3 love languages. Could we try that one again?
For me, the quality time is most important. The others are important, but not as important as that.
Dan organised for us to go on a day trip away, completely inexpensive. Not only did I feel totally loved, then it sort of released the other love languages in me. So it felt easier to give Dan the love languages that he needed. It's like a a rolling effect.
He does have a tendency of buying me things and then saying, oh, it's for us to share.
So she got a bench press for one of her Christmas presents.
Yes, and a tennis machine.
It's that thing of like knowing that somebody's on my corner. Whereas for him, he needs like the holding hands. Oh, that is so challenging for me.
So romantic.
I know. Like we made a deal that we hold hands in spring and autumn when it's not too hot or not too cold.
To help you work out which are your love languages, we're going to do a short crash course in each one. So, the first way to express love is through speaking loving words. Words are very powerful, either to build someone up or to put them down. And a lack of loving words can have damaging results in a marriage.
I remember counselling a couple. They were about to have a divorce, and in my room, and honestly, the air is vitriolic. They're hurling insults at each other. I can practically cut the atmosphere with a knife. And as they hurl these insults at each other, suddenly I said, just a moment, stop her. And I turned to the woman, I said, can you tell me anything at all, just one thing positive about your husband? She answered in a heartbeat. She said, he's a fantastic father. I saw a look of utter astonishment cross this man's face. He'd never, ever heard his wife say anything positive about him. And I turned to him, can you say anything positive about your wife? He said the same. She's an incredible mother. Honestly, the atmosphere changed in a moment. In fact, for about 5 seconds, they just looked at each other in silence. And in fact, I slipped out and left them to talk. I am often stunned at the sheer power of words. You know, the Bible says that words have the power of life and death. And sometimes I meet somebody, I met a man the other day, he said, oh, I know I bring my wife down, but it's just me, I'm just being sarcastic. She knows I don't mean it. No, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. Because it's so easy to be positive. Darling, you look nice in that. I appreciate that. Well done. It's so easy to bring into being the very power of the words we speak.
There are many ways we can use our words to communicate love. For example, when we compliment our husband or wife, it shows we've noticed. And I love it when Nikki compliments me on a talk I've given, or what I'm wearing, or even what I've cooked for dinner. If he says, your spaghetti bolognese is the best in the world, even though I've made it 1,000 times before, it makes a huge difference to me. It shows me he's noticed and I feel valued and not taken for granted. So often we might think these things, but we just don't say them. It's all too easy to get complacent and take the things our partner does for us for granted.
We can use words to encourage our partner. Our partner may lack confidence about doing their job well, or about parenting, or whether they have anything of importance to give to others. We all need to be our husband or wife's #1 fan. It's within our power to give our partner courage and confidence to build their self-esteem through our words. I remember talking to a couple in their first year of marriage who were having problems. We asked them, which is most important of these love languages for you? And without any hesitation, the wife said, words. Then the husband said he'd never heard loving, affirming words being spoken in his family as he was growing up, and he realized he'd have to learn. Well, he clearly made a conscious effort, because we saw his wife 6 months later, and she said she felt completely different about their relationship as a result of the changes he had made.
If words are your husband or wife's most important love language, being affirmed like this on a regular basis, many times a day, will renew their sense of feeling loved again and again.
A second way to express love is by giving thoughtful presents. A present is a visual symbol of love. It shows our partner we were thinking of them when we bought it or made it, and it can remind them of our love every time they see it.
If you're a natural spender, this means of expressing love probably won't be too difficult. But if you're a natural saver, and as you know, I'm married to one, you may find it just a little bit more challenging. If you don't buy non-essential things for yourself, you probably won't think of spending money on your partner. Now, for those of you who are savers, see it as an investment in your relationship.
And there are 3 things we want to highlight about giving presents. First, they can be inexpensive but still have a high value emotionally. Buying your partner's favourite thing to eat and leaving it for them with a note as a surprise doesn't cost much, but it can mean a great deal to them.
Laura's love languages are gifts. I'm not very good at giving gifts, but what I've learned over time is that it just means a lot to Laura. It doesn't have to be a big thing, it could be a small thing. And so upstairs, in a secret location, which I won't disclose, is a box. And if I'm out on my own and I see anything, I will just quickly buy it and I will put it in the box. And then at different times, I will just bring different things out and give them to Laura.
So today when we got in the car to come here, when we were leaving the house, he just said, "Can you hold this envelope for me?" But I peeked inside because, you know, I'm nosy. And it was a book that I've been kind of umming and ahhing about, and just mentioned really in passing to him yesterday, I think. It's a little thing, but it's such a huge thing. I was really moved. So
yeah. I think in the everyday gestures, you almost keep things ticking over.
Yeah.
You know, going to the newsagents, buy a bar of chocolate on the way home,
do you know what?
or a can of, something like
that's one thing that I've always loved about you, is just he'll go somewhere and we'll just come home with a bar of chocolate or a little cake, unless he's eating it, but just a little cake and stuff. And what it is saying, I've thought of you while I'm out, and it just shows that he really cares. It's sweet.
The second thing we want to highlight about giving presents is don't wait only for special occasions such as birthdays or anniversaries. Giving a spontaneous and unexpected present can make our partner feel very special and loved. If our husband or wife is going through a particularly hard time, a present can communicate, "I'm with you in this difficulty. I understand how difficult it is for you. I care about you." Or if there's an achievement to celebrate, a present means, "I'm proud of you."
Thirdly, actively discover what kind of presents your partner likes to receive. Think back to things your partner has said they especially liked receiving over the years, from yourself or others. It could be tickets to a sporting event or a concert, or something to eat or drink that they probably wouldn't buy for themselves, or something to add to a collection. Some people like surprise presents, others really don't. Some like practical presents, others don't.
The best present givers are those who find out what the other person likes rather than giving what they themselves would want to receive. Now, I really wasn't good at this in the early years of our marriage. Nikki loves practical presents and I really don't. So when we first got married, I gave Nikki lots of weird and impractical things that I liked, but he probably didn't very much, though he didn't let on. So now I try hard to give him the thing that he's probably asked me to give him for the last 6 months. And recently for his birthday, he asked me to give him a battery-powered pencil sharpener. Well, I quite honestly couldn't think of anything more boring to have for my birthday. But I gritted my teeth and I went to the shop and I bought it for him. I wrapped it up and I gave it to him on his birthday. Well, it turned out to be one of the best presents I have ever given him.
Yeah, I loved it. I don't think I'd ever had so many sharp pencils in my life. It took me a while to learn that Scylla really doesn't like practical presents. The flat we lived in when we first got married had 2 loos, 2 toilets, both of which had very uncomfortable plastic seats. And I suddenly had a brilliant idea of what to get Scylla for Christmas. I bought a very nice pair of wooden toilet seats, and I was so excited. I couldn't wait to give them to her. Now, Scylla is normally very good at expressing her excitement when she opens presents, but even she struggled to think of anything nice to say when she opened them and saw what I'd given to her. And I felt rather hurt. I'd have loved them.
For Christmas, that was my Christmas present. We want you to turn to the first conversation in your journal, Favourite Presents, and to take a few minutes telling your partner what have been the best presents you've received from them.
And be specific. Explain why they were so special and meant so much to you. Was it the sort of present, or when or where it was given? Did the way it was wrapped up make a difference for you? And try not to feel hurt if it's not what you expected to hear. It's never too late to change. A third way to express love is through physical affection. Affectionate touch is a particularly powerful communicator of love in marriage. Touch speaks louder than any words to some people. It communicates love where it's given and rejection where it's withheld.
For me, as you've heard, touch is a very close second to time. And Nicky knows from years of experience that if I'm worried or stressed about something, the best thing he can do is take me in his arms, hug me, hold me, and kiss me. And things suddenly seem to get much better as a result.
And I've learned that trying to talk Scylla out of the stress doesn't have nearly the same effect for her as physical contact. In a marriage, all affectionate touch is intimate. It's an unspoken language that keeps us connected. Some touch is overtly sexual, while other touch is more subtle. And as we said in the last session, we need to use the whole range and learn from our partner what's appropriate at different moments.
So it could be a kiss. And one survey says a romantic kiss has to last at least 6 seconds to show love. Or it could be holding hands, an arm around the waist, a hug, a hand on a hand, brushing our partner's body as we pass, or a back massage, sexual foreplay, right through to making love.
Mark? We met in a primary school in Poland. Michael was a DJ and had a crush on me.
We were in the same year, so it was just for the fun, for the school discos. And I would always play a slow song and run to get Marta for the slow dance.
We didn't see each other for like 4 years, and then we saw each other on the street, and Michael invited me for a concert. And that's how it started, and after 5 months we decided to move to Scotland together. It just felt that security and safety with him.
Just having such a beautiful girl next to me, that was enough for me, thanks.
I think like being in the house and having your day-to-day tasks is really easy to kind of get lost in it. I can easily go into that mode and kind of forget that it can be nice being with each other in a romantic way in a normal day-to-day situations. So I think even like when we are passing each other on the corridor, you know, just kind of like little touch arm to arm, or just kind of Michael will like smack me on the leg or even on the bum, like just gently, you know, just to kind of like, I realized you're there, I noticed you.
And it's kind of that constant showing the affection and showing, hey, you're still good looking, you know?
Yeah.
It's just great. That's the best way of saying I love you. Just walking past you and just commenting on how beautiful you are and how much affection I have for you. Then it actually goes into the bedroom. The sex doesn't happen only in the bedroom. It just happens throughout the day.
If you're going through a tough time in your sexual relationship, it may cause not only feelings of frustration sexually, but also cause your partner to feel unloved, especially where touch is their #1 love language. So it's important to keep showing physical affection to each other in non-overtly sexual ways.
A fourth way to express love is through spending quality time together. This is the love language that's most important for Scylla. And what we do or where we go is not nearly so significant as the fact of our being together. I remember one occasion in the middle of the winter, it was my turn to organise our date. We'd set aside 2 hours in the middle of the day, and we'd had lunch together at home. And then I thought it would be really nice to go for a leisurely walk up to the park, which is about half an hour from where we live. It was one of those rather overcast days in London when everything looked rather grey, with a cold, damp wind blowing. In the park, there seemed to be an unusual amount of litter blowing around. And everyone we saw, and there weren't many people around, looked rather depressed. Even the ducks on the pond, I thought, looked depressed. And by the time we got back home, I felt a bit depressed myself, a bit flat. And as I was making Scylla a cup of coffee, I was just about to say, "I'm so sorry, my darling. I don't think that was my best idea for our date," when I realised Scylla seemed to be in a great mood.
I came back feeling fantastic. I had Nicky all to myself. We hadn't seen anybody we knew, Nicky hadn't looked at his phone, and we could talk uninterrupted. Spending that sort of time together always makes me feel really special, and particularly when Nicky's initiated it. So no, I wasn't feeling depressed at all.
Quality time means more than being together in the same place. It involves focusing our attention on each other. we want to look at 3 aspects of this quality time. The first aspect is talking together. We need quality time to be able to express to one another what we're thinking and feeling, both the positive and the negative, our fears and hopes, our excitements and disappointments.
The second aspect is eating together. Meal times are some of the best opportunities for having quality time, and we need to make use of them. We went to a restaurant recently full of couples, and it looked like every one of them was looking at their phone rather than talking to each other. And I remember thinking to myself, well, you wouldn't invite someone physically on your date, so why would you want to have your 1,373 social media followers there? That sends the message that they're more important to you than your partner.
Zilla and I know for ourselves how easily phones can kill conversation. So we made a decision to put our phones on silent and not to answer them or look at them during meals. For some people, the habit of constantly checking their phone is so strong they have to put their phone somewhere out of sight. In the long run, investing in our marriage at mealtimes is far more important than keeping up with everyone else.
A third aspect of quality time is having fun together. Friendships are built on shared experiences. Shared experiences give us a store of shared memories.
As some of you may remember, on our pre-marriage course, we get couples to write down a list of the things that they enjoyed doing together. Their lists include all sorts of things like going to the cinema, playing a sport together, going for a walk, cooking together, shopping, exploring new places, and so on. Our aim is that in 5 years' time they can ask themselves if they're still having fun together, doing these or other things that they both enjoy.
In this next conversation, Times Together, we want you to think of the things that you enjoy doing as a couple, or have enjoyed doing as a couple, or perhaps would like to start doing together. Write some things down before you show each other and then start discussing what you've written. You may like to use your lists as ideas for your weekly date. The fifth way to express love is through kind actions. This is expressing love through doing things for each other, seeking to meet our husband or wife's desires and needs in practical ways. So it's things like cleaning the house, making them a cup of tea, doing the finances, helping with a job application, or making them their favourite meal.
And as you've heard, this is the second most important of the 5 love languages for me. And Scylla does many things on a regular basis that mean a lot to me. But I particularly love it when she does something I'm not expecting, such as packing for me if I've had to go away overnight and have been under pressure, or bringing me tea and toast to my desk when I'm struggling to finish a piece of work. And after many years of marriage, I continue to be amazed by all that Scylla does for me, both the routine and the non-routine. I sometimes catch myself wondering, why does she do all these things for me? And the only answer I can come up with every time is that it must be because she loves me.
It's worth telling your partner what particular actions are really meaningful for you. Nikki does many things for me too, but one of the best is him bringing me a cup of tea in bed every morning as I'm waking up. That makes me feel so loved. A damaging attitude in marriage is to think it has to be fair. I did that for you, so you should do this for me. Or, I'll do this if you do that. And when life is hectic, the instinctive question we ask is, why isn't he or she helping me? Even if we're busy, it's so much better to turn it around and ask the question, is there something I can do to help you?
And that question will be especially important if actions mean a lot to our partner. So, those are the 5 ways to express love, through words, presence, touch, time, and actions.
Take 2, Mark.
So with one of my love languages being words of affirmation, I found it so frustrating that
Rachel never really said please or thank you or sorry.
Which I just didn't even realise, like at home, whenever like my parents had made dinner, they just served dinner and we just eat dinner. But I think you told me, you were like, actually you realise you come across quite rude. And I was like, rude? I was like, I actually pride myself on being a very polite person. Like, what do you mean? And you said, you never say please or thank you to me. And I was like, what? And so for a while, we went through maybe a few weeks of, he'd make me a cup of tea and I'd be like, thank you, and like really went extreme in a sarcastic way. But eventually I think I learned to do it because I realised you did actually appreciate it. And I didn't realise how much it had been offending you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It kind of grated on you, didn't it?
Oh, it hugely grated on me.
Which I had no idea, I was oblivious. I was like, home should be the one place where you don't have to make an effort to like, be polite.
It's just getting to know each other's personality a bit more.
Yeah, quality time is really important to me. And I think you kind of knew that, but you'd sometimes think we'd had quality time when it had literally been half an hour lunch break.
Yeah.
Or
We had a different definition of it, didn't we? Where I thought quality time was sitting on the sofa watching TV or kind of seeing each other for half an hour, and it's great as quality time, and just saying, no, something needs to be planned. Like, I need to have put effort into it for you to have felt like this is actually quality.
Yeah.
That helped me a lot to perceive that.
And being a bit more thoughtful about it, because sometimes it's just quite easy to be lazy.
Oh, definitely. It's much easier to love you the way that I would want to be loved, rather than trying to love you the way that you want to be loved.
Yeah.
That takes a lot more effort on my part.
We're learning.
More than 20 years ago, I asked Scylla to write out a list of those times when she's felt especially loved by me. This is the original piece of paper, and I guard it carefully, as every time I read it, it reminds me again of what I need to do for Scylla to make her feel loved. From her list, you'll hear it's very obvious that time and touch are her two main love languages. This is what she wrote. Number 1, when you've organised a surprise for our date, like going to see a film I've been wanting to see. Number 2, walking in the mountains in Scotland for 2 or 3 days a year. Number 3, lying in bed on a Saturday morning, drinking tea, talking, praying, reading the Bible together. Number 4, walking along our favourite beach in Ireland when the sun's going down. Number 5, going out to dinner in Ireland and spending the night in the back of the Renault. That one rather surprised me. Wasn't the most comfortable night I've spent away from home, but it clearly meant a huge amount to Scylla. And actually, I enjoyed it too. Number 6, walking together in London, like in Kensington Gardens, and you take my hand or put your arm round me. Number 7, talking in the bath last thing at night. Brackets. If we had a double bath, that would be my idea of heaven. Please note. Well, that was a little bit complicated. As we live in a vicarage, I wasn't sure what the church authorities would make of that idea. But as it happened, we needed a new bath, and they managed to fit in the sort that has the taps in the middle where you can lie end to end. And actually, I recommend it. We've had great conversations in the bath since then. Number 8. Oh, this one's a bit too embarrassing to read out, so I'll leave it out if you don't mind. Number 9. Talking on the phone every night when we're apart from each other. Number 10, going to Paris for 2 days. Brackets, I'd like to go again. We must book it. Number 11, driving anywhere with just you. Number 12, going to art exhibitions with just you.
We want you to turn now to the conversation in your journal entitled Discovering Your Own and Your Partner's Love Languages. One of the best ways of doing that is for each of you to think of specific occasions when you've particularly known your husband or wife's love for you and write a list, like the one Nikki's just read out. Do questions 1 and 2 on your own, then show each other and talk about what you've put before filling in questions 3 and 4. Working out and then learning to use our partner's love language is a process that may well take some time, particularly if you discover that the love language lowest on your list is the highest for your partner. And practice is the only way to get good at it.
As we come towards the end of the marriage course, it would be a mistake to think we've sorted out our marriage and that's it. In the same way as some people on their wedding day say, "This is the best day of my life, it can't get any better." Marriage isn't static. It's designed to be a dynamic relationship that keeps changing and developing. In our first year of marriage, Scylla and I were both students and had very little money, but we needed a car. We ended up buying a 16-year-old sports car very cheaply from a cousin. It wasn't perhaps the wisest decision in our marriage. This car broke down on average once a week, but as I enjoy mending things and had more time in those days to repair it, we managed to keep it going. Then, during our summer holidays, we decided to drive in this old sports car out to Greece. It was an amazing adventure. We drove through a number of countries we knew nothing about, usually sleeping on the side of the road. We visited ancient Greek ruins and swam off deserted beaches. We lived off a diet of feta cheese, olives and tomatoes. Over 6 weeks, we covered over 6,000 miles. We had loads of punctures and broke down several times, but we managed to bring the car back to the UK in one piece. Then we went to live and work in Japan, and we left the car locked up in a garage for 3 years. After 3 years, I was excited to see our families and friends, but I was particularly excited to get our old sports car out of the garage. Sadly, when I got to it, I realized just about everything had seized up. Rust had taken its toll. It was going to be too expensive to repair it, and so with great sadness and reluctance, we sold it for a pittance. Cars must be driven and maintained to keep them in good working order. And it's the same with a marriage. Marriages have to be maintained.
Marriage is a journey of discovering more and more about our partner. On the 29th of April 2011, the royal wedding of Prince William and Kate Middleton took place at Westminster Abbey in London. On the morning of the wedding, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, said this: "Every marriage is a really big commitment to the people. It's a commitment that says, I'm prepared not only to spend the rest of my life with you, but to spend the rest of my life finding out about you. There's always more of you to discover."
This journey of discovery will take us through different places, over different terrain, through different seasons. And all the topics we've covered on this course are the tools we use to maintain our relationship and keep it moving forwards on this journey. When our marriage is working well, many others will benefit from it and enjoy travelling with us, friends, wider family, children if we have them, and other people.
For all of us, parts of the journey will be very challenging. While our trip to Greece was very exciting, it was also hard at times. In fact, in some places the road was so bad and this car was so low to the ground that one of us, usually me, had to get out and walk for a while as the potholes were in danger of removing the bottom of the car.
And like that trip, every marriage will go through hard times. Marriage involves a mutual commitment to keeping going together. As much as a car wheel needs a strong rim because of the bumps and knocks, so with marriage, commitment holds it together. And we shouldn't be afraid of commitment. Actually, commitment is very liberating. Our commitment to each other and to our marriage creates a safe place within which we can be vulnerable with each other, where we're able to trust each other enough to say what we're thinking and feeling deep inside. And this creates intimacy.
Commitment means we can take a long view. It means we're able to plan our future together. It means understanding that feelings come and go, that we won't always be feeling infatuated with each other. It means believing that if things are hard now, they don't have to stay that way. And expressing our commitment to each other is essential to the success of the journey.
When we're both committed, there's nothing we can't work through. In fact, every difficulty can become an opportunity for growing together because we're committed to travel this journey side by side.
We learned through the years now that there's no something called like you do 1, 2, 3, 4, you get perfect marriage, that's it, end of story. You'll be happy for the rest of your life. You need to work on it. You need to give it time and effort, and you need to work on that.
It was quite liberating to know that it's normal, that a good marriage doesn't mean you're always going to be totally in love, you know, and feeling all the emotions, because feelings change, they do change.
And it's up and down every day. It's a challenge that we need to be aware that we need to make an effort. But if you just go out of yourself and do something for your partner, automatically you will feel it as well. And then communication starts again.
I think we used to do this thing like, you hold this while I speak, and then I'll give this to you when it's your turn to speak, so we could really hear each other. I mean, I would say that was one of the wisest tools that we picked up on the marriage course.
Yeah, I love that. I would agree. And I think we started with the mechanics of actually holding something.
Yeah.
And like, okay, this is it. But now, like,
now we don't have to hold. It's so
we've built the muscle of that, so we don't even have to do that.
In us. Yeah, it's become a part of our lives.
And it's a respected form of communication. Yeah.
I think in terms of talking to younger couples, I think it's important to say, don't give up. You know, things get rough at certain times, and especially when it's real hectic. And I think you have to just go through those times instead of backing away and saying, I'm quitting, I'm giving up. And I know there are times where I felt that way, but I'm so glad I didn't, because things do get better the longer you stay together.
As we come to the conclusion of the course, we'd like you to have a final conversation around supporting each other. And we suggest that you ask your husband or wife if there's something particular concerning your future together that they'd like your understanding and support for.
Then, if you'd like to, say a prayer for each other concerning what you've just heard, either aloud or silently. Otherwise, express your commitment to your future together in some other way.
Before we conclude, we'd like to pray for your marriage. Lord, we thank you for the power of love. We thank you that your love never fails.
We pray that you would bless each marriage and use each couple to be a source of love and encouragement to many others.
And we ask that in our marriages, love and faithfulness would meet together. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Marriage isn't always easy. It takes commitment and courage, but it is richly rewarding. And at its best is an adventure of love that lasts a lifetime. We believe God has called each of us into a relationship with our husband or wife that He wants to use.
Nikki's going to finish by reading something that has always inspired us to see marriage as a partnership that has a purpose that's bigger than just ourselves. It was written by a man called Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Bonhoeffer was a German pastor and theologian who was imprisoned during World War II for his opposition to the Third Reich and tragically put to death just before the end of the war. But he so commanded the respect of his guards that they smuggled letters and papers he'd written out of the prison. While he was in prison, his niece was engaged to be married, and had he been free, he would have taken her wedding. However, he wrote a sermon that was smuggled out of the prison on the eve of her wedding and read out at the wedding service the next day. This is part of that sermon.
Marriage is more than your love for each other. It has a higher dignity and power, for it is God's holy ordinance through which He wills to perpetuate the human race till the end of time. In your love, you see only your two selves in the world. But in your marriage, you are a link in the chain of the generations, which God causes to come and to pass away to His glory and calls into His kingdom. In your love, you see only the heaven of your happiness. But in marriage, you are placed at a post of responsibility towards the world and mankind. Your love is your own private possession, but marriage is more than something personal. It is a status, an office.
Every marriage has the potential to leave a legacy of love. From our marriage and your marriage, The ripples go out and out and out, for better or for worse, touching and affecting the lives of many people.
It's been wonderful going through these 7 sessions together, and we're so glad you joined us. And as we say goodbye, we want to congratulate you on what you've achieved already. Some of you have been married a short time, and some for much longer. Our encouragement to you is, look after your marriage and treat it as something very precious.
Building a marriage is a significant achievement, and in years to come, you'll look back on having built a marriage as perhaps the most important achievement of all in your lives.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Here we go. Roll sound.
Alpha take 2, month.
Here we go. And
Don't assume. Oh my goodness.
oh, he's doing some behind the scenes.
And our partner can help us by letting us know when we
express negatives.
This is great. Julia. 7.5. Ooh.
Oh, I probably damaged.
No, it's all right.
So this is like a shot within a shot.
Level 2 is a deeper level of connection. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey guys.
Set. Action.
Oh, thanks, man.
Oh, is it me?
Have you had some funny ones?
Guys, I'm turning off the AC.
Can you move? Can I?
I'm not allowed to move.
Yeah, no,
they can't hear it. But I'm like, what?
Yeah,
What do I say? What do I say? It's an ice cream cone from an ice cream cone. Behind the scenes, just DJ Jacob, fresh beats over here at his table.
I should have said that.
That's glorious.
We're just the ones we were moving.
That's the joy of editing.
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
The set of the marriage course.
Action.
But we...
That is beautiful.
I didn't realise this was so precise.
Okay.
And
Oh, sorry.
I know, I realized.
We all have that longing deep inside.
Yes, we did it.
Ice cream cake.
We've got all our shots, right?
We're going to fail at.
1, 2, 3.
What have I missed?
Here we go.